As you were saying, the ruins of the Urukami Cathedral became sort of symbolic of the devastation of Nagasaki by the bombing. When the display within the memorial was designed, they built a diorama of the cathedral ruins, which is basically how you enter that exhibition.
This is in the museum.
Within the museum,
right?
But it still hasn't taken on the iconographic significance of
the dome in Hiroshima.
That's
no,
right.
No.
There was one other reason that the added complexity to why this site for the bishop Yamaguchi, I think his name is, the Catholic bishop who's very influential in these negotiations in Nagasaki. He referred in an interview to it reminds us of a troubled past. And this cathedral was also, during the Second Sino-Japanese War, and then the 1941 was a rice and food store for the Imperial Army. Certain Nagasaki Christians, Catholics, had been partaken in the Nanjing events of 1937. There was a lot of preaching about loyal to the empire violence, and so for some Catholics, this was a sign of divine judgment.
Well, and the Japanese Imperial Army actually actively desecrated churches on the Asian mainland. So as we saw, if you remember, in the Comfort Women Memorial in Nanjing, there's a little bit about the Comfort Women system around Asia. And when they discuss Hong Kong, they show a picture of the Anglican Cathedral there, which was turned into a comfort station.
Oh, really?
By the military.
So a lot of that's very much about the 50s and early 60s, but I'm also thinking in the last 10 to 15 years. So we went to the Hiroshima Memorial yesterday, which was 2002.
Yes.
Quite a stunning, very impressive structure and piece of architecture and display. Do we know when the museum here was built and the diorama so what's happening in the last 10 years, Ed? Do you know anything about what's been happening?
Well, I don't know when the museum was first built, so I don't know the exhibition we see now. I don't know exactly.
Because we're seeing a shifting discourse of museum
but in the
representation in China.
In the Okamasaharu Memorial hall where we just were now, the Okamasaharu Memorial Hall being this very small private museum, basically set up to record the aspects of the war and the bombing that aren't covered here. When I was talking to the lady selling tickets there, she was saying that, Okamasaharu, this Protestant preacher after whom that little museum is named, he spent years and years campaigning to get those aspects of the story.
So those aspects being
the Japanese initiation of war with China, the whole sort of Japanese imperial adventure on the Asian mainland, forced labour, the comfort women system, the various atrocities committed by the Japanese army. These are not discussed in here. So the background to the bombing, why the bombing happened, why Japan was at war with America, is not really discussed here. Although thanks to the efforts largely of Okamasaharu, the coverage of those aspects was included. It was incorporated to some extent, but then having been incorporated, there were protests from right-wingers, as there always are in Japan, and the museum authorities sort of caved in to some extent to those protests. They cut down the coverage of those aspects, and so I think, I haven't been here for a few years, but still now I think you'll find a little corner of the exhibition that discusses these things, but you blink and you miss it.
Now, I want to ask you something here, Tim, because it was very interesting when we were in Hiroshima. This is just bringing us back to this space. We were talking about UNESCO and its policies of, Hiroshima is a UNESCO site, buffer zones, and we had a discussion about normalising how much these spaces become civil space. Now, this is what strikes me about here. There's no buffer zone. There's traffic up and down on either side. I mean, what do you think about this space and the way that lack of, in a way, management determines
it's hard to tell.
The meaning and the experience.
But it feels somewhat similar. I mean, there's a sense of still the gated or the fenced-off park with a.
I think you can
somewhat similar feel in this.
You can read too much into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think the traffic makes a big difference.
Well, it does, but remember when this was built, there wouldn't have been so many cars.
No, that's true.
No, but the point I was trying to make is there's been an investment, an international, in a way, determining of how that space operates.
Absolutely.
Vistas, all these kinds of things.
So with the World
you compare
Heritage
here,
designation for the 1996 onwards, then there really is absolutely no restrictions on that. What can happen in and around that area are much stronger than probably are here.
Yeah.
So, but
the geography of Nagasaki is different from Hiroshima. So it's hilly.
Yeah.
It's more sort of.
Yeah. And obviously, it's a predetermined point.
Mm.
This is a hypercenter. It's like you can't put the park where you want. It's the A dome, and here it's the hypercenter, and there's probably limited land.
Well, I'm
it.
getting at the fact that when we were talking about Hiroshima, there was certainly a lot of urban planning that went into determining the city around that history.
Yeah,
but it was tourists. Whereas here, there's not.
Right. But the geography is basically flat. It's a flat space. Yeah. It's a open, a blank slate, so to speak, that they were working with in Hiroshima. Whereas here, I think the geography is significant.
But would you say therefore it's simply down to geography? I mean, I'm interested in Hiroshima that there's a lot of urban planning that goes into the Peace Boulevard, all this kind of thing. I mean, the question I'm getting at is it doesn't seem to be as central. It's clearly not as central to history and remembrence.
From what I've read in,
but that's also where this is located because it's not right down.
In that case,
it's not near the. Absolutely, yeah. It's not near the commercial centre of the city.
Yes, there's that, and also this was, as I said, the centre for the Catholic community. So I think that
how active
would have also restricted the extent to which the city government could sort of plough in and say, well, we're going to remake this area according to a sort of modern urban development master plan.
Because of course in Hiroshima there was that all of the military land that the municipal authorities were therefore able to possess. Whereas here it wasn't.
But in a sense, the history and the sort of demography of Nagasaki is more complicated.
Yeah, it's so fascinating.